and see Justin.
Yeah, so I think that's... Thank you guys all for being here. The last person that we haven't really been able to introduce here with us is Avi. It's my mom's first husband. He's been with us with his wife Susan. They're in attendance via Zoom. So let's everybody say Avi. And Susan. And Avi was amazing. He came back and actually came and stayed with my mom during the last 2 weeks when we were here, and was really helpful and spent the night and just gave my mom a lot of comfort. You know, I came up with this idea that you know, in death, we're no longer parents or no longer grandparents. You know, my mom was a woman first, and that's really what I honored by being up here at the Chaminade, by bringing you guys all here to experience a little luxury. She wanted us all to enjoy the finer things in life, and this is really how I do that, is by traveling and experiencing it. And I hope that you guys all got a little piece of that today, and that you guys will take that in your travels and your experiences as you go forward, that her memory is really just our blessing, and it really gives us a passion for life and why we're here and something to live for. So, you know, a lot of time we're here to mourn in person, but this isn't a time to do that. This is where we're going to treasure her, and I feel like we've done a great job of doing that. So all the performances were just incredible. Thank you, Sean and Emily. Thank you, Max. Thank you, David, Ryan, Gabriel.
Thank you, Justin.
Oh, thank you. So I think we're here for a little bit longer. We got like an hour and a half left. You know, there's still some food out here, still some drinks. Enjoy, have good conversations. You know, I want to just really open the floor to anybody who wants to say anything. Yeah, does somebody want to say anything? That's really horrible of me not start there. So thank you, Leslie. I could start pulling people, but no, Robin, yes, I was going to go there, but you might as well. Come on up. Yes. Okay. Yes.
and Susan. I had the pleasure of meeting and spending a night with Avi, and that was great. I just wanted to say, I thought there's so many memorials that Justin and Max and David wrote about her mother and the complexity of her and stuff are great. So if somebody hasn't seen those three things, that sort of really gets her. But I just want to talk a little bit about her need for control, because you know, when she was in control, she was happy. When she wasn't, she wasn't. And what happened is she decided that she wanted to stop drinking, and she wanted to do it in her way. She called me and Leslie at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, "I need one last drink. I'm going into this 30-day rehab tomorrow. This will be my last drink ever. I want to choose a time and place." And we said, "Come over." We gave her a drink. And then every year on that anniversary, she called me and she said, "Thank you." That meant so much to me. That last drink, that I controlled it, because as she went around the circle in her AA meetings and stuff, everybody was jealous. "Oh, I wish I could have controlled it." You know, a lot of people ended up in rehab, not because they were from jail or from whatever. It was so important to her. And at the end of their life, that control thing came back very strongly. She really wanted to control her death, and she couldn't talk much because of the stroke. But she could always say yes or no. So as long as you put things in a very clear yes or no, she finally got us to figure out what she wanted, which was Maria. It's too bad Maria's not here.
Yes, I know.
Maria, I mean, she didn't want us to be our caretaker. She wanted to say goodbye to us, and she got what she wanted. I mean, obviously it's not what she wanted when she knew she was dying, and I was trying to convince her to come back to Santa Cruz and tell her sons a little earlier, and her sisters a little earlier. But they were having their own crisis at the time, and it meant so much to them, to her, that you three were working so hard to help Julie. And I'm sorry, I forgot Julie's husband's name, but Richard, thank you. And that she didn't want to put an atom into that. But it meant so much to her, and I think she wanted that to be your last memory of her, working as a team. And I've got to, just really quickly, I want to give a few shout outs. One is to her as a mother. I used to spend ridiculous amounts of time at the house when the kids were young, and normally I avoid mothers like the plague when the kids are young, because they tend to be, oh, isn't my Johnny so cute? Lynn was just such an interesting mother. Isn't it interesting that Max does this? I find it so fascinating. It was very, she had emotion about it, but it was not very intellectual. She was so fun to be around. She was such a good mother, and I just wanted to say, this is my strong memory, and I wanted to give a shout out to Mark Lindsay, who,
Yes.
because, you know, she was so proud she was right about him. She was saying, I knew he was a nice person. I could tell. And she was so proud that she was right. And also to Laurie Anderson. After she found out, you know, the cancer returned, she had to go get all these tests, and her nurse looked just like Laurie Anderson. And she was so pleased. I mean, she said it was just like a dream having Laurie Anderson take care of her. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you all. And just to say a little bit more, so our Uncle Richard, we were at a wedding for my cousin Emily and James. Congratulations to them. They just got married 2 months ago, so we're very excited that they're part of our family. Welcome James in, and my mom brought us out there for the wedding, and it was really incredible. But my uncle unfortunately got very sick at the wedding and then passed away 2 weeks later. So for the majority of my mom's waking life before she had her stroke, she was with her sisters taking my uncle through his passing, and with my aunt who has dementia, who couldn't be here because this was a little too much for her to process all this. And you know, my mom was really concerned about that, but her sisters are incredible, and so are my cousins, and they're all pulling their weight and taking care of our aunt and making sure that she's safe. So thank you for that heartfelt speech, Robin. And Robin's always been there for my mom, so thick and thin. So appreciate that. Anybody else? Come on up, Aunt Gail.
So I don't know if everybody got the messages that were coming from the group that you signed up with. But one of the things they said to post on the website was something that you had learned from Lynn. And I didn't want to post it on the website. I thought I'd rather share it here with the people who are here to celebrate her life. So, when Robin's talking about her need for control, here is what I learned from my sister, probably pretty late in life for me, but that when you need to be in control, it's okay to be in control. And here's how I learned that. I was living in Japan, and she came out to visit me, and we had just one of the most remarkable times you could ever have. But we were coming back from Kyoto, back to where I lived, which was just outside of Tokyo. And we got to a point on the train where you've all seen probably the videos about where they push you on because there's so many people. Yes, we were on a train where they were pushing them on. Anyone who knows my sister knows that her bubble was not a Japanese bubble. By any stretch of the imagination. So we get on the train and she's like, I can't do this, I can't do this. And I'm like, we've got an hour train ride and then we're gonna get off and then we'll have another hour train ride and then we'll be home. So the train pulls out and the next stop comes and she says, okay, that's it, and we get off the train. And I'm like, okay, we wait for the next train to come, we get back on, it's still just as crowded. We went one stop at a time. But she said, you know what, this is how I can do it. Because I can be in control. I know I'm gonna just go to the next station and then I can get off. And if the next one looks too crowded, I just won't, I'll wait. And I said to her, well, we might not get home until like 3 a.m. The train quits running. The last train out of Tokyo to my house is like 1. So we need to be to Tokyo by 1 or we're gonna spend the night in Tokyo. Either way. She's like, that's fine, we'll spend the night in Tokyo. But after that, I realized she knew how to take care of herself. She really did. And that's a lesson that I think it's hard for people to think, I'm going to do what I need to do because this is what I need to do for me. And the time that I spent with her during that period, I learned how to do that. And she was so proud of me. I was somewhere, I think I was in England, and I needed to get somewhere, and rather than taking the train because it was going to be train from here to here to here to here, I said, you know what, I'm just going to take a taxi. And then I told her about it. She's like, you took a taxi? I was like, yep, I paid the big bucks, I got on a taxi. She was so proud of me for taking care of myself. So that's the lesson I learned from my sister, is that you need to do what you need to do to take care of yourself, even if it means you might not get home till 3 in the morning.
Yes, no, Avi wanted to tell a story, and then I have another from my mom's old boss also sent a recording, so we'll play that in a little bit here. But Avi, did you want to address everybody here?
Is there a way everybody can see
Yes.
me?
Yeah, they can see you. Here, let me make you big, see if I can do that.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, we can hear you.
You can do that and they can hear me. My
Can
little
see
tiny
you.
thumbnail.
Yep, you're a little bit more than a thumbnail.
Hi everybody, I'm so sorry Susan and I can't be here. There, we had bought tickets, but then Mr. Trump tightened up the borders and it was not clear Susan would get across the border, so we just had to cancel. I want to tell a story about that picture that you all saw up there on the screen of me in an Arizona State Sun Devil t-shirt in front of a 68 burgundy Chevy Malibu with a green door. My brother was a tennis player who went to Arizona State. That's the t-shirt. That car I inherited from somebody in my family who had lived in Cleveland, where there was a lot of salt and snow. You people in California have no idea. And in fact, when I got the car, it was already like 4 years old. And one of my friends got in, was a two-door, so you had to kind of step hard to get into the back seat. And he put his foot down, and it went right through the floor because it was rusted out. And so we welded a steel plate into the back of the car. That's the car that Lynn and I drove across the country from Ann Arbor to Palo Alto when we moved out there in 1975. Lynn being Lynn, we got out there and she had mailed a letter explaining what probably happened while we were along this trip, and the fights we probably had with her quoting her father and me quoting my mother, and hoping that it had all worked out just fine. The first year was pretty hard. It was first year in graduate school. I had always been a great student. I had a diagnostic test in December, and I failed it. And I had never gotten anything less than an A in my whole life. And I went into the deep freeze. Emotionally, it was awful for her. I ended up passing everything. We went back to Ann Arbor, we got married, everything relaxed. Second year was way, way better, I thought. And then at the end of the second year, we got divorced. And one of the things that's really sad for me is I was really hoping to talk to Lynn. We had made a plan that I was going to come out there and help her with chemo in Utah before she had the stroke. And we would have lots of time to talk. And I was going to ask her, like, I don't really remember what happened. Why did we get divorced? It's just really not at all clear to me, but I never got that answer. Anyway, we did get divorced. And we fell out of touch. And the next time I really heard from her, she called me up when she was getting divorced. And her family had all turned on her and said, it's all your fault. You got divorced a second time. There's something wrong with you. And I had just gotten divorced the second time. And I said, no, there's nothing wrong with me. Sometimes things just don't work out. And that started up our friendship again. And it also started up her friendship with Susan, my wife, still wife of 33 years. And Lynn had been an incredibly important part of our life ever since. It's been so sad that this has all happened. And it's, as I was saying, so sad in the sense that it felt so close to getting so many answers to so many parts of my life, to Lynn's life, that I won't have. I mean, there are people probably out there who have answers. I know Lynn was so close with who used to be Sue Murray. Sue, are you there?
Yes, hi, Avi.
Yes, okay, who was friends with Lynn at that time. But Lynn was an extraordinary person. You know, that time when we were together at Stanford, I don't know what it could have been like for her, because there she was hanging around with all these Stanford PhD students. And she was a high school graduate. Now, granted, she went to the high school that was the alma mater of Diana Ross.
Cass Tech.
But she was always incredibly smart, and I think she always knew that. But that still had to have been incredibly difficult for her. But she always was so intellectually curious. She taught me all about art. She taught me so much about music. I did learn about John Mayer from her. Our whole family about Jamie Cullum. In fact, I went to a Jamie Cullum concert with our daughter, Katie, at the X in Ontario Place here. And Katie was a big stage door person. And there's a picture of me at like 3 a.m. in the morning, and Jamie Cullum was always good to his fans, and there I am standing with Jamie Cullum, who was very kind. He had 2 young children at that point, looking incredibly bored, but standing there, taking a picture with me, the dad, and him, because Katie wanted it. And that was really all because of Lynn. She opened so many doors in my life, in my kids' lives, in my wife's life. And I know for all of you, it's the same thing. Like, that was Lynn. She just opened doors for everybody. And she's gone, and I think the best we can do to honor her memory is to continue to open doors for each other. Any story.
Thanks, Avi. So I think a lot of people would think it'd be odd that somebody might have a relationship with their mom's first husband, but I always called Avi my Jewish father, even though my dad is Jewish. Sorry, Dad. My mother was Jewish, which actually made us Jewish, but she wasn't Jewish by birth. It was because of Avi. Now, Avi will say that this isn't because of him, it's because of his parents. I will say the same thing has happened with Susan, Avi's wife, who thanks my mother for molding Avi. So Avi is who he is, in essence, because of the ridicule, because of the divorce, because of the failure, and that's made him a better person. Because of that, he has an amazing relationship with Susan, who is absolutely a part of my family. She's a wonder. She gave me the permission to give her a primal roar when I was ready to really let go of any of this angst and anger. So I really wanted to share that with you all and make sure you guys heard that story. So thank you. The other part here is to play. I guess I'll open it up one more time. Anybody else want to say anything? I do have a speech from Rob, who she worked with for many years. I'm going to see if I can share this with you, Avi, and play it for the group here. So let me go ahead and share my screen.